Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Massive thanks to PropheticHose for letting me adapt their series. Check out some of their works by following the link in the description down below. Today we will be listening to the first part of What If Mirko Became a UA Teacher. If you enjoy, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing down below, and don't forget to hit that bell icon so you get notified when videos go live. Now, without further ado, let's get into the video. Chapter 1, Job Interview. What the fuck do you mean I need to teach some brats? Rumi shouts over the phone, tapping her one good foot against the creaky floor of her bare apartment. Due to your current state and how the public has been acting from the aftermath of the war, the HSPC is requesting you to take over All Might's position at the school, her agent sighs over the phone. Her agent, Ishi Hama now, was probably the only person on the planet that could deal with Rumi's bullshit on any given day. Acting as the rank number 5 rabbit hero, Mirko, Rumi didn't have a traditional hero agency, as she had always found herself to be too much of a free spirit to be tied down in one spot. She followed crime as it happened, but still had to follow all the laws and regulations and whatever else nonsense that the HSPC came up with. And she had to have an agent to rope her in somehow. Even though she would never admit it out loud, and despite how now knows it, Rumi could admit that she struck gold when she came across now during a meeting with the HSPC early on in her career. With their first meeting coming down to a shouting match in the middle of the lobby, Rumi had ended up asking Now to be her agent. And when Now had told her about how bored she had been as a basic pencil pusher, she accepted. Through her almost near decade as a fully licensed hero, Now had always pulled through with her, fighting tooth and nail to allow the both of them to have as much freedom as possible from the HSPC's bureaucracy. With Now knowing the ins and outs of the law, Rumi made a very successful career as a freelance hero, peaking at her current rank just after All Might's retirement. But then the war started, with the founding of the Paranormal Liberation Front and the raids that followed. She had ended up being assigned to the Jakku hospital to deal with the raw power of the high-end Numus, but got her left arm crushed and lost her right leg from the knee down. They failed to take out Shigaraki Tamura, so the period between their loss to the final battle Rumi had needed the time to recover. Luckily, she ended up with a pair of high-quality battle prosthetics specially made for her for the upcoming fight. With her determination to make it through physical therapy and rigorous training, she was asked to join in the final battle, being assigned to help take down the bastard Shigaraki once and for all. The analysis and plan she was given ended up being essential to their win, splitting up the PLF's two heavy hitters between Shigaraki and that all-for-one guy that All Might had fought. After a grueling battle, her team had been able to eventually subdue Shigaraki with minimal damage. That new hero, Lemillion, and his mutated quirk had landed the final blow, killing Shigaraki just as All Might had heroically sacrificed himself to All for One. From what she heard, he had used their shared history and a set of power armor to stall All for One long enough for the rest of the heroes to defeat the villain, losing his own life in the process. Even with the defeat of the greatest threat to the planet, Japan was rocked by the loss of the former number 1 hero. None more so than the students at UA who had the fortune to be taught by the man just before his passing. And seeing the opportunity, the reformed HSPC had asked Mirko to take up his mantle, as her injuries had forced her to take reduced time patrolling anyway. As much as she hated to admit it, Rumi could see the benefits, passing on her knowledge and drive to the next generation while also keeping herself up to speed. She would be anchored down to one place, but Now had assured her that she would still be invited to raids and such, even with the reduced crime at the moment. And apparently, Nedzu, the scheming rat principal, had asked for her as well, stating something about her battle instincts and relations. And so, in the end she had her hand forced and needed to accept the job. Do I even have the qualification to take it up? I mean, fuck, I've been only doing hero stuff my whole life. Don't you need a teaching license or something? Rumi stomps over to her balcony, taking in the fresh air. According to Nedzu, you don't. Not even All Might had one, so you'll be good to go. You'll be given a room at the teachers' dormitories and a patrol route to do as well. All that's left is for the interview with him. Huh. Fine, tell the rat I'll do it, the rabbit hero concedes, but I want the most active routes and to run my classes however I see fit. I'll bring it up with Nedzu, classes start in a few weeks so you've got time to get ready. But I'm sure the little bunny can manage that, right? Now teases her over the phone. She always knew to poke at Rumi's competitive spirit to get things done. Tisk, you know I'll be fine, I'll just beat some heads in. I still gotta deal with all the crap that came with the prosthetics. How did your appointment go for that? Rumi thinks back to her session at the clinic, one that was specifically for heroes only. They ended up clearing her fully on her physical therapy and had provided her with a new set of prosthetics to go with it. They fit in more naturally on her body, to the point where one could almost not spot that it was fake without a closer look. It wasn't as durable as her wartime gear, which were literal tanks, but was still strong enough to deal with most of her attacks. She wasn't going against evil incarnate on the streets after all. Fine, I can go back to patrol full time again. Fuckers gave me some new limbs as well, they fit nicely. That's good, remember to get them checked soon. We don't want a repeat from your first session after all. Rumi shivers at the memory, her training prosthetic was probably still embedded in the wall somewhere. Yeah, whatever. Call me if the rat needs anything, or our overlords back at the HSPC. PSSSH, sure. I'll email you the information, most of the contract negotiation has already happened. Nedzu's a crafty one, that's for sure. How's Hawks, by the way? Why would I know that? Rumi gives a confused glare back at her phone. You both were in that final battle after all, high-ranking heroes, in the same hospital. Rumi gives an understanding hum. And the media says you're dating. Huh. Why would I be with that chicken fucker? He'd snap like a twig under me. Rumi can only hear now laugh from the other side of the line. Sure, though you've got to put yourself out there sometime soon, Rumi. I'm sure there's someone out there for you. Nice talk. Bye. Rumi unceremonially hangs up, grumbling under her breath. She pockets her phone as she grabs a suitcase and starts stuffing it with some clothes and her hero uniform, waiting for the notification about her appointment time. What does she know? I don't need anybody anyway. Wearing a nice dress shirt and long tanned pants, Rumi strolls up to the now less menacing UA gate. Normally, she would be found dead wearing such a get-up, she had a reputation to uphold after all. But she knew who she was meeting today, so she had to give a good impression. Scanning her hero license, she passes through the security towards the massive glass structure that made UA's main building. She had been told by now that almost everything had already been discussed between her agent, the HSPC, and Nedzu in order for her to best replace All Might in his role. Apparently, her experience fighting alongside some of the UA students during the war made her the ideal candidate to help with their hero training. The school was relatively empty at the moment, still recovering from the aftereffects of the war as they attempted to return to some form of normalcy from the chaos. With how prominent UA had been during the war, Nedzu ended up having a lot of leeway with how things shaped up afterwards, with the overhaul of the HSBC's leadership. But now, the returning students were spending time with their families as the staff prepare for the upcoming entrance exam. She spots multiple ectoplasm clones wandering the halls, with one of them guiding her to Nedzu's office for her interview. She tried her best with small talk with the cloning hero, especially given her new familiarity with prosthetics. After receiving some kind advice from the hero, which she tries to play off, she finds herself in front of the principal's door, as her nerves start to get the better of herself. Raising a fist to knock on the door, she jumps slightly as the door suddenly swings open before she regains her composure. As she walks inside, she spots the small furry figure of Nedzu pouring himself a cup of tea as he returns her gaze. Ah, welcome Mirko. I'm glad that you were able to make it. Was your trip over enjoyable? The rodent smiles, as he sets down the teapot. Plenty, got to beat down a villain on the way, huge fucker with a stone quirk, Mirko replies, sitting down in the chair across from the principal. Good to see that you've kept up with your work even after everything that you've been through. Nedzu takes a sip from his steaming tea. Would you care for some tea? Or perhaps coffee? Nah, I'm good. So what's it you want with me then? Getting straight to business then, good. I'm sure that you already know most of what we are seeking from you then. You want me to do what All Might did and teach your students to take down villains. Essentially. With everything that Japan has been through and the state of our staff, we've decided to hire a new set of teachers to help prepare our next generation of heroes. With the loss of All Might as well as Midnight, we already have 2 new teachers that we need to look for. Given your prowess in villain takedowns and your past history with our students, you are our prime candidate to take the mantle as our heroics teacher. I get it, I heard from the HSPC as well about their own concerns, Rumi says, giving a mental eye roll to the organization, But what do I actually have to do? Just beat them up, tell them some shit about being a hero. You'll be supervising and coaching our students on fighting styles, quirk progression, and general attitudes towards heroics. Stepping in when things get too dangerous will also be part of the job, Nezu explains, taking another long sip from his tea. Do I gotta come up with lessons or something? Rumi asks, not really wanting to deal with the planning and all the other nonsense. We have the resources left over from what All Might did, and some of our past heroics teachers. We will also provide for you a small crash course on teaching so you can have some form of qualifications before truly teaching, Nezu offers, his beady black eyes staring back at own red ones. Tisk, how much work would that be? Not too much, especially given your newfound spare time. You'll also have help during your lessons from another one of our teachers, so you won't be alone. Huh? You think I can't deal with some brats on my own? Rumi questions, raising an eyebrow. She's had to deal with kids before, as her admittedly attractive quirk made her quite popular with the younger demographics despite her brash personality. The extra input will both help you and your students in their development, I assure you. I would hope the two of you would get along for the benefit of their futures. I'll be fine without them. And who are they anyway? That would be spoilers, now would it? If you truly wish to teach on your own down the line, we can change it up to see how it works out. Rumi didn't exactly like the idea of having to work with another person, she had always stuck it out on her own on her work. Now was the only one who she let in, mainly so that she didn't need to do all of the paperwork from her job, but she ended up being a good friend as well. But the HSPC and Nezu had her in a corner, so she could only hope that at least they would be a respectable hero for her to be paired with. The rest of the negotiations passed by quickly, discussions about her pay, limits on her patrols and her new living situation. The information about her teaching crash course was passed on to her phone, morning classes each day leading up to her debut as a teacher before transitioning to weekly classes after the school year started. Now ended up dealing with most of the paperwork for the job, luckily for Rumi since she wanted to get out some steam from being in some office clothes rather than her hero costume. Looking at her future co-workers at least told her that she would be back in her leotard soon enough while on campus, so she wouldn't suffer any more humiliation in that cursed garb. She was also invited to watch the hero practical during the entrance exam, to get a look at her potential students. It had been enjoyable to watch the robots get beaten in by all the kids, giving her the itch to jump on down there to join in on the fun. Rumi had hoped that she would be able to fight the zero-pointer robot that Nezu called out at the end of the exam. It had reminded her of one of her fondest fights early on in her career. She spotted some of the other heroes that had been there during the war, Eraserhead and his eye patch, Present Mike cutting some jokes to the underground hero, Vlad King spying in on some specific students, Snipe casually leaning in on the wall in the back. Each of them had their scars from the war, physical or mental, so it was good to see them in decent spirits on campus. Leading up to the first day of classes, she had finally moved into her room in the teachers' dorms, just in case the PLF remnants decided to attack once again. She doubted it, as all the HSBC's resources were focused on taking them down for good after all the destruction that they had caused. Now kept bugging her about her new situation and all the other teachers, but she hadn't really had the time to talk with them, with the teaching lessons and learning the area for her patrols taking up most of her time. But then that all led up to the present day, the first day of classes where at the start, all the teachers would be introduced during the orientation as Nezu called her down to the stage. And with that, I would like to welcome our staff onto the stage. Nezu's voice rings out through the sound system in the auditorium. Rumi spots the seats being filled by students in uniform, the spotlight now shining on most of the other teachers as she stands near the back of the stage. Through trial and tribulation, both our students and our staff here at UA have managed to pull through a tough period and come out looking forward to a shining future. We are glad to have our returning staff to help nurture the growth of all of our students. Nezu turns to the teachers that had walked up, giving a small bow in thanks to them. Some of the kinder-looking teachers return the gesture with a smile, while the others give a stern look of their own. And to look to the future, I would like to introduce some of our new staff. Nezu cheers as the spotlight flickers away to the figure of a blonde heroine. Please welcome MT Lady as our new modern hero arts history teacher. MT Lady walks up to stage. Her skin-tight purple costume combined with a pair of horns on her mask made up the now familiar look of the rank 23 heroine. She remembers how quickly she rose through the ranks, taking 2 years to reach her current rank. MT Lady had been one of the few heroes to really stick around through the war, still acting as a hero after everything that they went through. Rumi had even heard that she was part of the secret squad that took down most of the villains leading up to the final battle. "Thank you for the introduction, Nedzu," MT Lady says graciously. "I hope to live up to your expectations, to the student body and to the memory of Midnight. Even through our arguments, she was an inspiration of mine, paving the way for other heroines to take the stage with pride and respect. I wish to be able to honor her memory and live up to the standard that she set here in this wonderful school. Thank you, and I'll see all of you soon enough." MT Lady ends her speech giving a kiss to the crowd, causing a wave of cheers, as Rumi can spot a few of the students blushing up a storm. And now is the time that Rumi realizes that she probably needs to give a speech of her own as well. She wasn't that great at those, tending to bounce away from interviews or leaving it to now to deal with. "Thank you for your kind words, MT Lady. I speak for all of the staff and our students that we look forward to learning from you." Nedzu pops back up onto the stage. Hopefully he would give her some time to come up with something to say. "And with that, I would like to introduce our new heroics teacher, Mirko." "God damn it." Rumi walks up to stage, summoning all of her confidence and courage to face the crowd. She knows she could easily do it, she would just rather not. "Alright, all of you maggots. I know that times have been tough, but now isn't the time to give up. I'll be sure to kick all your butts to make you the best heroes you can be. I don't expect to leave any of you as weakling when you leave the school." Rumi gives a feral grin at the crowd, making her presence much larger than her actual stature. With a round of applause from the students, Rumi walks back to her new spot alongside all the other teachers. She knows that she's now the top-ranked hero among the staff, so she needs to make sure to set the standard for her position. She has large shoes to fill with taking over All Might's job at UA, especially after the fighting done by all the other heroes at the school. "Thank you, Mirko, for your inspirational message to our promising hero students." Nedzu continues his speech, and finally, "I would like to welcome our final new addition to the faculty, Midoriya Izuku, as our new quirk theory teacher." "Who the fuck is Midoriya Izuku? That's not even a hero name." Rumi watches as a tall and lanky, green-haired man walks up to the stage, wearing a simple buttoned shirt and pair of slacks rather than any form of a hero costume. Even Sir Nightie's costume was more practical than that, and it was just a suit. "Thank you, Nedzu, for your introduction," the greenette cheers, giving a beaming smile to the crowd. "UA has been through a lot as of late, but you have all survived and will now thrive. You all went through very harrowing experiences throughout the past year, the attacks on campus, the changing education, and the constant battles. Many sacrifices were made by the heroes of this school, and those across our country. But you have all survived despite it all. And with each and every one of our efforts, we will come back stronger than ever and tell the world about how we are all here. I promise to embody the message of our great school, and go beyond." Rumi watches as the crowd gives a loud shout to the new teacher, screaming the school motto of Plus Ultra as he gives yet another bright wide smile to the students as they clap and cheer for him. She doesn't recognize the man as a hero, since maybe he was recently retired. But that wouldn't explain why he was wearing what he was. And his build didn't necessarily give the impression of a hero as well, so she'd need to ask around about him. "And with that, I would like to give one final warm welcome to our new staff." Nedzu claps his paws together, turning to the trio of teachers. "Now that that is out of the way, the history of our great school shows us how we can endure hard times such as what we have gone through. Back at the dawn of Quirk's Dash." Nedzu's speech begins to drone on, as Rumi's expression starts to drop. She still needed to figure out what was up with the other new teacher. She had a deal of respect for MT Lady, with how out there she put herself and the courage she had to stand up to all for one during the final battle. But she had never heard of a Midoriya Izuku before, as she looks over to the greenette only to spot him scribbling in some kind of notebook as he mutters to himself. Her rabbit ears picking up on a few words here and there, talking about quirks which made sense given his position in the school. To her, it was strange to see him here, sticking out like a sore thumb amongst the rest of the costume teachers. Maybe he thought he was better than the rest of them and didn't need a costume. He didn't seem to care too much about what Nedzu was saying, despite what she was doing, but at least she was in costume. Who knows what his history is, if he had even fought during the war. And as Nedzu's speech finally came to a close and the teachers filed out of the auditorium alongside all of the students, Rumi watches as the man darts away with surprising speed, leaving the other teachers and students behind. He couldn't even be bothered to talk with the students, to talk with them as a hero should. Already she didn't really like him, as he almost seemed to be hiding something from all of them. But they had a job to do, and she was going to do her best to teach her new kids. Chapter 2, Battle Trial. Tisk, and he didn't even stick around for the students. Rumi complains over the phone, annoyed from what she had seen the previous day as she turns the bend around the corner. You really seem worked up about this, now comments, probably dealing with some paperwork in the background. It's just fucking disrespectful. He wasn't even in his costume, the nerve. Are you even sure he's a hero? From what you've said he might not be. Rumi stops jogging for a second, thinking about the possibility. Nah, all the other teachers are heroes. He's teaching some nerd stuff as well, quirk theory or some crap. Rumi, those nerds made it so that you could still be a hero. And besides, don't you need to get ready for your first class? You wouldn't want to show up a dirty bunny. Rumi can hear her smirk over the phone. Yeah, I know, to both of what you said, Rumi agrees. I'll try to catch him in the teacher's lounge. I could look him up on the HSPC database if you'd like, pull some of his files and all that, now offers. Couldn't hurt, I think it was Midoriya Izuku or something like that. I'll talk to you tomorrow, fill me in on whatever. Sure, have fun with your new kits. Now hangs up before Rumi can get another word in as she makes her way back into the teacher's dorm. After a quick shower and clicking her prosthetics into place, the rabbit hero pulls on her infamous hero uniform, the tight purple and cream leotard with her thematic crescent moon icon front and center. Her customized prosthetic leg even had an attachment for her boot built into its design, completing her look. In all honesty, she was completely amazed at her new limbs, working almost seamlessly with the rest of her body, only missing the sensation of touch. Strolling into the teacher's lounge, she spots a few of the other teachers that had already made their way to the break room. Present Mike was talking excitedly to Cementos near the coffee machine while she spots MT Lady going over some papers at her desk, probably getting ready for her first lesson as well. Rumi knew that she had a pretty relaxed schedule for the day, just going over the first heroics lesson for one of the new hero classes. At least that meant that they would be able to start easy as she would ease their way into more of the combat lessons. Despite her usual attitude, she knew when to tone it down, and given how fresh these kids would be, she would need to. Approaching her fellow newly recruited teacher, she leans against the desk of the blonde heroine, spotting the mess of lesson notes and materials strewn across her desk. It would probably be a good idea to be situated with her new co-workers, especially seeing how Rumi would need to slowly adjust to her new lifestyle. Sup, getting ready to deal with the little kids. MT Lady looks up at her, her mask having been laid down on her desk. Oh hi Mirko. Just going over the materials for today. I've got no clue how Nemuri managed all of this, but I guess I'll just have to learn. Tisk, call me Rumi. But yeah, at least All Might was as much of a teacher as I am now when he taught last year. Fucker didn't even have a teaching license. And you do. MT Lady deadpans, to which Rumi shoots back a glare. Well, I hope only the best for you, Rumi. And call me you, it's only fair. Rumi hums at that, looking at the other desks nearby. One of which was her own, which she had looked over the lesson plans from the previous years to get ready for the day. But next to hers was that of the greenette from the first day, if the stack of notebooks were anything to go by. Yeah. Speaking of which, any idea where the other guy is? Green hair and skinny looking. Oh, you mean Midoriya-kun. Yu's expression lightens at the mention of the man. I heard he was out watching 1B's quirk assessment test. Apparently he's a wizard or something at quirks. Oh yeah. Rumi raises an eyebrow. She guesses that was what all of the notebooks were for. What else do you know about the guy? Not much really, but I heard through the grapevine that All Might knew him somehow. Something about his niece or whatnot. It was right before the war had started. Huh? All Might had a niece? I guess the dude wanted to be secret about his life, especially how he was the little twig under his quirk. Rumi remembers back to the Kamino Ward fight. She had been busy with a case up in Hokkaido at the time, much to her dismay. He always was a mystery. But I do remember meeting Midoriya-kun during the war. He was talking with Lemillion before the final battle. You know if he fought during it? I hadn't heard of the fucker before yesterday. I don't even know if he's a hero, Rumi grumbles, still unsure about the man. Well, from what I heard, he's MT Lady starts to talk before the door to the lounge opens. revealing a large hulking man wearing a red spandex outfit talking with the greenette who was still wearing a classic teacher getup. And there's so many options with Mikayama's quirk. Between the obvious stealth elements and her natural flexibility, she would have so many different areas of application. From what I saw, a good place to start. Midoriya cheerfully rambles to the hero, Vlad King if her memory serves her correctly. Yes Midoriya, I'm glad about the additional input. I would prefer it if you could send your thoughts to me in writing so I could look it over before the next homeroom to plan out some personal lessons. Vlad King calms the greenette down as he approaches his own desk. And as he does so, Midoriya turns to face his own desk, only to spot the two heroines as well, his excitement now being redirected at the two. Oh. MT Lady-san. Mirko-san. It's a pleasure to meet you both. He greets the pair, beaming a smile. I'm sorry I haven't been able to introduce myself yet, Netsu's had me through the ringer so far. He gives a bashful look at Rumi, rubbing the back of his head with his hand as his tangle of curls bounce with the motion. Reaching from behind his back, he pulls a notebook and a pen out of nowhere, open to a page filled with notes and sketches, pointing it to the blonde. Taking a closer look, she sees that the sketch is actually a very detailed drawing of MT Lady picking up a building, annotated with some kind of writing. I know that we're co-workers and all, but do you think you could sign my notebook? I've been a big fan since your debut. Midoriya blushes, very clearly embarrassed. Oh ho. It would be my pleasure, I wouldn't want to disappoint a fan of mine, Yu teases, signing the page before handing it back, but please, call me Yu. I'm not too sure if I'm ready for that yet to be honest. He shakes his head, it's still crazy to be here with all of you. Rumi decides that this is her chance to question the man, wait what the hell do you dash? But instead, the greenette's attention turns to her, his excitement radiating off of his person, and Mirko-san. I've always had a few questions about your quirk, I haven't had too many opportunities to talk with someone with a bestial adjacent heteromorphic quirk. His notebook suddenly turned towards her, a different page open with another detailed drawing, now of her own figure, torso curled inwards and legs splayed out in her famous Luna Fall super move. She reads at the other notes, seeing it written apparently in code, but the page is filled to the brim with it. Hold up, why the dash do you know what species your quirk is closest related to? Stop for a sec dash are any of your relatives of the same breed or are you all part of the same quirk heritage? How far do the natural instincts affect your actions? I said, dash is your strength proportional or enhanced? Does it extend to other mutations, besides the visual ones? Can you mmhmm? Midoriya, I believe you've been mumbling again. The black-haired, one-eyed erasure hero appears out of thin air, wrapping his scarf around the greenette's mouth before quickly releasing him. Sorry about that Aizawa, he once again bashfully rubs his head, I get a little worked up around heroes still. I can see that. But you need to get ready for your next lesson, Netsu would like a few words with you before it starts. Oh okay. Midoriya's expression quickly morphs again to a cheerful attitude, turning to the stunned rabbit heroine. I'm sorry about that, it's always been a bad habit of mine, he gives a small bow to Rumi before grabbing a few notebooks from his desk. I'll be seeing you around. And just like that, he darts out of the teacher's lounge, giving a small wave at his exit. Yu quietly giggles as she returns the wave before going back to sorting her papers. Rumi turns to face the underground hero. What the hell was that? The famous Midoriya mumble, he answers in a completely serious attitude, don't expect it to be the only time you see it today. Wait why? If you don't know, you'll find out soon enough, Aizawa gives a strange grin before retreating back into a sleeping bag, slumping down on the ground. What the fuck? Rumi asks no one in particular, still trying to process the whole encounter. Shaking her head, she heads over to her desk, peering at the page on top, with the plan for the day. Battle trial. Alright, first lesson here we come. Rumi hypes herself up, standing outside the large metal door with one written on this front. Taking a deep breath, she slams the door open as she bounds inside, now with 20 different pairs of eyes tracking her. What's up nerds? Ready for your first foundational heroics lesson? Rumi shouts to the class, having stepped up to the podium at the front of the class. One of her ears twitches at all of the chatter that had picked up when she walked into the room. It's Mirko. She's so badass. I can't believe she's teaching here. In this class, I'll be teaching you everything you need to know about being a hero, Rumi explains, flipping over the card she had brought with her, and to get started, we'll be doing a battle trial. To get ready for your first fight, you've got your first hero costumes made. Rumi clicks a button at the podium, sliding down a series of cubby holes with suitcases set inside. Hurry over to ground beta, don't take too long. Rumi then quickly darts out of the room, leaving the classroom in chaos. From her contract, she remembers how she has a lot of freedom with how she gets to run her class, so seeing how well they deal with getting ready in an unfamiliar environment is already a good first test for being a hero. At least in her own opinion. Already in her hero costume, she heads over to where she had prepared her materials for the lesson, in the observation room at the fake cityscape. Stepping into the room filled with monitors, she immediately spots something out of place. The green-haired teacher was standing by the front of the monitors where he seemed to be reading over something from one of his notebooks. "Hey! This is my lesson, what are you doing here?" Rumi shouts, stomping over to the quirk teacher. "Oh, Mirko-san. Nezu-sensei told me to sit in for each of the hero lessons, think of me as an assistant or advisor of sorts." He tilts his head, giving a kind smile to the rabbit heroine. "Naha, I don't work with others." "What did he even tell you to do?" Rumi stands in front of the man. "Since I'm going to be giving them their quirk theory lessons, Nezu-sensei thought it would be a good idea to take a look in person since I didn't get the chance to see it already," he explains, pulling out a different notebook. "I'll be able to help out with analysis and such, I won't be in your way." Rumi looks at him for a second, his optimistic expression not dropping for a single moment. "I don't even know who the hell you are, why I should listen to you." "Well, I'm Midoriya Izuku, pleasure to dash." Midoriya introduces himself once again before getting cut off by Rumi. Yeah, I heard that already. I mean hero name, qualifications, the stuff." "Oh. I'm not a hero," he bluntly states, giving a beaming smile to her, "I just do analysis." "What the fuck do dash?" Rumi starts to rant before she faintly hears the students making their way into the room. "Never mind that for now, just stay quiet or something." Midoriya furrows his brow, frowning at her before he takes a step to the side, tucking his notebook under his arm as he turns to the oncoming students. Rumi meanwhile, takes a look at the 20 costumed students, chatting amongst themselves as they comment and complimenting each other on their designs. "Alright maggots, glad to see you managed to find your way here," Rumi begins to explain the lesson, spotting the greenette out of the corner of her eye slowly walking up to her side. "We'll be doing an indoor 2-on-2 battle trial, a fight between heroes and villains." As Rumi gives her breakdown of what the plan was for the lesson, she glances over to see Midoriya writing something in his notebook as he quickly looks up at the students. And just as she finishes her explanation, one of the students raises their hand. "Mirko-sensei? Is he another teacher?" they ask, pointing at the greenette. But before Rumi can tell them that he's not their heroics teacher, Midoriya cuts her off with his own explanation. "I'm your new quirk theory teacher. You'll be having your first lesson with me tomorrow. Since I specialize in quirk analysis, I'll be giving feedback throughout the lesson on what I see. Listen to your Mirko-sensei, however, she's the one in charge for the day," he finishes, beaming a bright smile to the students, some of which smile back while others murmur under their breaths. Yeah. But let's get started with the first battle." Rumi regains the attention of the class from Midoriya, pulling out a large box with a hole in it as the students approach to figure out what team they are on. As Rumi sorts out who's on what team, she looks over to spot Midoriya already talking to one of the students, a bulkier, brown-haired boy with a pointed nose. He seems to be having a deep conversation with him, speaking in a low tone which her hearing can't pick up. With a nod from the student, he walks on over to Rumi, who had finally organized the teams. "Alright, first up we have Team B as the heroes and Team C as the villains. You've got 5 minutes to prepare, so get a move on." Rumi shouts at the crowd of students, 2 of which jump slightly before running out of the observation room, presumably the villain team. As the hero team, which includes the brown-haired student that Midoriya was talking to earlier, makes their way out to the building, she walks on over to the greenette, who seems to be completely absorbed into his notebook. "So, Midoriya lets out a peep in surprise, you'll be doing analysis or something on them? Is that your quirk or something?" Midoriya looks over at her and seems to hesitate for a second, "Something like that." "Alright, whatever." Rumi looks up at the monitors, spotting the villain team, a stoic-looking girl wearing some kind of scuba outfit and a boy wearing a full-on ninja costume, talking next to the bomb before the ninja disappears from the screen. "What were you talking about earlier, with the kid?" "Ah, you're talking about Akari-kun." She glances, shifting to spot the topic of conversation, the brown-haired boy talking with his teammate. He's self-conscious about using his quirk, so I just wanted to reassure him about it, that's all. "I'll leave the hero stuff to you." Midoriya turns to face her, tilting his head and giving a small grin. "Like a damn puppy." "You're just a smiley shit, huh?" Rumi scoffs before turning on her intercom. 5 minutes have passed, hero team can enter. "Beat some heads in." "That's one way to phrase it," Midoriya comments as they watch the hero team sprint inside. Akari runs through the main door as his teammate, a tanned girl with animal ears and a clearly inspired costume, and Rumi doesn't feel pride rising within her at the sight, leaps through the air to crash through the upper floor. The teams go back and forth, the ninja applying hit and run tactics, throwing blunt knives and other assorted weaponry at the hero team, while they try to locate the bomb. Next to her, Midoriya's notebook quickly fills with new ideas as she can hear the rapid scribbling across the pages. With a small part of her being curious about what he was writing down, she decides to get an opinion from her co-worker. "So Mr. Analysis, who do you think's gonna win?" Rumi asks, already having her own opinion. She had read through the class roster before starting the lesson. She wasn't one to half-ass anything, so she had somewhat of an idea of the abilities of both teams. Given the brute force of the hero team's quirks, an animal mutation quirk like hers and a strength-enhancing transformer, she thought they had the better chance to overpower the villains. "Honestly, it's a toss-up," he quickly states, surprising her slightly at his assurance. "Takakawa's hydrokinesis will be able to hold off one of the heroes, so it's up to if Fukugashi can deal with the other with his remaining store." Rumi hums, taking in the analysis as she refocuses on the match, seeing exactly what Midoriya had said come true. The inspired heteromorphic was currently restrained by whips of water that seemed to be flowing out of the scuba tank on the remaining student's costume. But just as the villain, Takakawa, could use the capture tape on the hero, the concrete wall next to them bursts open, revealing the large hulking figure of the brown-haired kid, his body swollen up in size as he activates his quirk, dark spots appearing on his skin. The surprise attack causes the water to fall to the ground, freeing the animal girl, kangaroo quirk I think, as she bounced towards the bomb on the current floor. And just as she was about to win the match, the ninja appears out of thin air, throwing a pair of bolas and pulling her back as she struggles against the equipment. Ibukuro has been captured. Rumi calls over their headpieces, spying the yellow piece of capture tape wrapped around the girl's legs. At the sight, Akari bulks up even more as black spots begin to appear on his skin as he charges towards the bomb. Batting away splashes of water and dodging several shuriken, he tackles the bomb, breaking through the wall behind it in the process. Hero team wins. Rumi calls back to the students, telling them to return to the observation room as Midoriya seems to be looking over his new notes, crossing out a few things before jotting something else down. Up next was to declare the MVP of the match, and she guesses that she could let Midoriya say a few things about it. And the use of flowing water to negate any potential movement was a genius idea. That's not even going over the dexterity of the whips, it's very clear that you've put in the effort to learn how to manipulate it to that level of degree. Midoriya raves about the student's quirk, causing the student mentioned to blush slightly, seemingly uncomfortable at the attention. Ahem, Midoriya, Rumi coughs, getting a small apology from the greenette before she turns to the students. After that hell of an ending, who'd be the MVP then? One of the students raises their hand. Yatsubashi-kun, right? He got the bomb and won for them, right? That's right, he pushed through and got the job done. The priority was to deal with the bomb and that's what he did. Even though in a real situation like that, damaging a bomb could have serious consequences, so make sure to think of that. Even if a fight would have been a good choice as well, Rumi agrees. I'd say that Fukugashi was the MVP, Midoriya chimes in, causing the heads of the students to turn to him as he flips open to a page in his notebook. Even though his team lost, he was able to distract the hero team long enough to almost cause a win by time limit for the villains. On top of that, he took down one of the two villains, even if he wasn't able to capture the other in time. Akari-kun's power wasn't a good matchup for him, and Takakawa was distracted at the time for the two to work together to eliminate him as well. Remember that you are all brand new, so such teamwork isn't expected of you yet. The room goes quiet as Midoriya finishes his explanation, looking back up from his notebook to give another one of his smiles to the students. Thank you Midoriya for your input. Rumi's eyebrow twitches slightly at the interruption. And as Rumi then calls for the next team, the rest of the matches follow smoothly, with the students duking it out between each other as they get used to fighting with their quirks. Every now and then Midoriya adds his own input, compiling all of his ideas into the notebook, to the point at which she thinks that he might need to grab another one. She wasn't too sure about his advice, given how he would have never fought before as he wasn't a hero. His quirk, while vague, still made her think that he probably wasn't the best to give out tips on combat. Eventually the final match ends as she sends off the students for the day, right before she tells them to work their asses off if they want to still be able to fight. And that leaves her to close up the observation room as her co-worker stays seated on the ground, a few of his notebooks spread out across the floor as he seemingly compares his notes. You done nerding out? Rumi barks over to the greenette, you know you can do that back in the lounge. He looks up in surprise, blushing slightly as he begins to collect his notebooks. Sorry, got lost in my thoughts there. There's so many cool quirks in the class today, it's a little distracting. Tisk, quirks are quirks, all they need to worry about is how they use it as a hero. Rumi locks up the room, shutting down its power. I don't think so. Every quirk is fascinating in their own way, Midoriya replies, carrying his small stack of notebooks under his arm as he walks with the rabbit heroine through the empty halls of the school. Of course you would, you ain't got a flashy quirk. Midoriya goes quiet. Okay, maybe that wasn't the best phrasing for her to use. What I mean is that, you aren't a hero so you wouldn't know what they need to focus on. I'm aware, I know what my job is and what is yours. It's just that I've always found quirks interesting, no matter what they are. Yeah, and what exactly is your job? We're all teachers but heroes on top of that. What made Nedza pick you for a job if you ain't one of us? Well, I'm a quirk analyst and consultant by profession. I studied at I-Island on quirk theory for my doctorate with a focus on heroic applications, so I like to think that I have a lot of experience on looking for improvements. Oh really? Do I gotta call you doc now? Rumi gives a small laugh. Please don't, I think I would shrink into nothing from embarrassment. Midoriya blushes, covering his face with his notebooks. Fine, I won't go full bugs on yet. What kind of consultations you done then? Rumi asks with some interest. She had never really ever talked to a quirk specialist, having the typical quirk counseling as a kid and getting an analysis done once from the HSPC early on in her career, so she might as well ask about it while she has the chance. Mainly heroes, I've been doing that for as long as I could write, Midoriya says, a fond smile appearing on his face. Oh yeah? Any big shots? Endeavor, Ryukyu, Edgeshot and Lemillion. My favorite was probably Fat Gum to be honest, but Lemillion's was super intriguing. Shit really? Rumi raises an eyebrow at that, not expecting such big names. Maybe I'll ask my agent to contact you then. Midoriya beams at her, probably the brightest smile he had seen that day. I'd love to do it. I have so many questions for you. How much do your instincts play into your combat style? What about Dash? Rumi rolls her eyes at the greenette's deluge of questions. She wasn't really sure what to think about the man, he was still a bit of a mystery to her. She was still just trying to figure out who he was, even if he was starting to seem like a somewhat interesting guy. Who knows what else he was hiding behind his geeky surface. Alright, that's where we'll leave off for the day. Thanks so much for listening along with me today. If you enjoyed, please like and comment down below. It really helps with the algorithms. I look forward to seeing you next time. Ciao for now, lovelies.